Welcome to this virtual Innov8 Insights. I'm going to be looking at Sage Intacct, which is Sage's cloud finance management solution. Let me just hit into my presentation and we can get started then. So, firstly, I'll introduce myself. So, my name is Chris Housecroft. I'm pre-sales manager at Innov8, so I look after anything product, pre-salesy wise, so our internal products, our add-on products, and Sage's products as well, of which Sage Intacct is one of them. So historically, I was an implementation consultant at Innov8, so I've kind of got down and dirty with the software, and now work with our sales team predominantly pushing products that Sage passed to us, and our partners passed to us as well. So today we're going to look at Sage Intacct. So what is Sage Intacct? So Sage Intacct is a true cloud offering from Sage. So it sits entirely in the cloud, no software installed on a server required. It's a multi-dimensional accounting solution. So we'll go into that a little bit as we get into our demo and show you what that's all about. There is AI and automation in Intacct. So it's a very modern, solution where we've got some AI embedded into the solution, and we're trying to automate business processes to try and drive efficiencies through the business. And it is a best of breed finance management system. So what we mean by that is it's not trying to be everything to everyone. It's got quite a lot of modules, which we'll look at and see what offerings out there from the different modules. But then it's designed to be a central finance hub with other marketplace partners, or ISVs as they might be known, plugging the gap of those function specific requirements. And it is, of course, a fresh, modern and intuitive experience for the user on a cloud platform, as you would expect. So where did Sage Intacct come from? So Intacct, as it was first known, was founded back in the late 90s in the US, and it's always been a cloud application. So whilst we're all starting to get cloud through our business, kind of trying to do cloud adoption, different platforms are moving on to the cloud, Intacct was born as a cloud application. So it's not like they've taken an on-premise application like some other solutions such as QuickBooks have and rewritten it onto the cloud. It's always been a cloud solution. In the early 2000s, it kind of built up a lot of momentum, especially across in the US. They focused a lot on accountants. They got a lot of accounting practices to adopt Intacct and roll that out to their client base. And then in 2017, Sage acquired and rebranded Sage Intacct and kind of pushed on for a couple of years, focusing on the US and growth and that whole image and brand across there. Then in 2019, Sage launched into Australia and UK. Innov8, of course, partnered with the product, working with Sage as one of their earlier partners. So we've had quite a lot of exposure onboarding with the product, and it's quite a nice process because we're very engaged with Sage. And as we can see in 2020 and onwards, really, the product continues to grow and gain a larger customer base globally, really. So if we look at what Intacct offers, so as I say, it's a native cloud solution. From the first line of code that was written for the solution, it was a cloud solution. It's always intended to be cloud. It's a multi-dimensional accounting system. So what do we mean by that? Sage 200 is multi-dimensional to some respect, although we technically only have our 3 dimensions really in Sage 200. So we have we're talking about financial reporting here. So we've got our nominal code, our cost center in a department. It's a very fixed structure in Sage 200. With Intacct, it's much more flexible. A dimension could be a customer, it could be a supplier, it could be an item, it could be a department, or it could be an entity, it could be an all matter of things. And these are things that we tag onto transactions at any point in our processing, which help us get much more detailed reporting. If that means we can see and drill into different pieces of information to help with real-time decision making. So we've got some dashboarding in there as standard where we can drill into different bits of detail, have KPIs on, things like that. As I said before, it's a best of breed solution, so it's easy integration to other solutions. That's through both the API that are offered through Sage Intacct, which is a very powerful, flexible API, but also through marketplace partners that offer specific either industry or functional solutions. It's a fresh and modern user interface. We'll see that in a little bit. And it's really designed for those finance teams that are looking for a really powerful solution that give true visibility across the business. So not where they can just sit in the nominal ledger and just run the reports that they're given from a financial perspective, but actually being able to drill across the business and especially into multiple layers of the business if we've got a multi-entity structure going on. So it might be a bit small to see, but we can kind of see here kind of areas. So in the core financials, we've got things like the general ledger. People with Sage 200 would know that's the nominal, accounts payable, purchase ledger, accounts receivable, sales ledger. So we've got order management, purchasing in there, dashboards. But then we've also kind of got some additional modules. So there's some planning solutions in there that are coming across the UK, contract solutions, projects, fixed assets. We've got inventory management, and of course the big focus really on multi-entity and consolidations. So what does best-in-class finance mean? So best-in-class finance means that Sage Intacct would sit in the middle of all the other platforms, whether provided as a marketplace partner or as potentially a bespoke system that's been built for that customer. So Sage Intacct sits in the middle and manages all that finance and all that reporting. And it may be fed from places like CRM, as are connected to Salesforce, AP automation solutions. So we're starting to see those drive through into the on-premise software market now with things like Dracer and Cycon in there. So we've also got that with Intacct, where we've got document scanning, document approvals, there's expense management integrations and financial planning as well, which is kind of forecasting solutions. These are just a couple of examples on here. Being cloud, it makes it really easy for vendors to link their solutions into Sage Intacct through that API, which means that there's a whole host of providers that can offer ISV or MPP solutions that will give various business benefits to different areas and different functions. So I couldn't fit them all on the page because there's ever growing, which really shows the strength of Sage Intacct in the UK market. These are just UK marketplace partners, so there's a whole load in the US as well, but they have to be vetted and approved to sell into the UK and work with our tax scheme and things like that. So this is just a selection of UK partners now. So since that 2019 launch into the UK, all of these solutions have all written and linked into Intacct for the UK. They offer things like AP automation, which is that scanning and approval. There's some financial planning solutions on here, credit management. You see there's a couple that offer solutions for other products you might be aware of, like Sage 200, Sage 50, like Credit Hound from Dracer, for example. There's integration platforms as well in here. And of course, we've got integrations into Sage's HR solution and into Salesforce as well. So like I say, that really bolsters the approach of Sage Intacct in the UK. It's not ruled out because of a lack of functionality. It's ruled in because it's the best of breed finance, and all of those other solutions that people may already be using or need to plug into their business can all be integrated into the solution. And this list is growing day by day. Sage have got a huge list of ISV solutions that are pushing to get onto the marketplace and start working with Sage Intacct customers. So you might be watching this or listening today thinking, yeah, we're trying to kind of adopt the cloud. What would make me want to move to Sage Intacct, or what could be going on in our business that would make us consider Sage Intacct? So there's a couple of triggers for change, a couple of things that people are usually going through in their business that might make them look at Sage Intacct or other Sage solutions. So a lot of the time that's due to lack of data visibility. That doesn't necessarily mean from the system that you're using at the minute, from Sage 200, Sage 50, any other solutions. It could be because you've got systems outside of Sage. You've got bespoke solutions that have no integration to your current finance system where the API could come in. And by going to Sage Intacct, you could bring everything together and get much better reporting. You could be going through a chart of accounts restructure. Maybe your P&L is ridiculously long and you're trying to group that all together, but then get some dimensional reporting. Intacct can help with that a lot because of the way those dimensions work. We don't need a massively broken out, exploded chart of accounts. We can go for a simple chart of accounts with dimensions to break down the detail. Maybe multi-entity requirements. So a lot of businesses that are growing, this kind of falls into the next one. So where you've got rapid growth, rapid acquisitions, trying to bring other businesses on into your solution. Intacct offers a really quick entity implementation. So because we have a core chart of accounts, makes it really easy and quick to bring new entities on board and pull them into that consolidated reporting without much effort at all, really. Remote access needs. This was a big one during COVID, of course. Everyone ended up working from home. People had Citrix in place. They were good RDS solutions for those on-premise solutions. That's fine. That does the job. But for those that have maybe operations overseas where security is a requirement and things like that, backup requirements, that's where Intacct comes in, because there's no install anywhere from a customer perspective. It's all sat in the cloud and accessed through a web browser. There's no software installation at all. People that want to integrate their other solutions, just general cloud transformation and digital business. There's a lot of grants out there for cloud transformation for various business types at the minute. There's a big drive from kind of modern CFOs coming into businesses, pushing that digital business image, and also finance collaboration as well. A lot of solutions have barriers to visibility across the business, whereas with Intacct, it's quite open and exposed, and you can drill into all the detail really easily and start working together on finance rather than one person work in one area and then another person work in another area. So it is also an award-winning solution. So just pulled this from kind of Sage's latest kind of slide deck, really, that they pop out there because it keeps on building and building. But as I say, they are an accounting preferred partner. They're doing really good on G2 crowd, which kind of go out and they survey customers and partners, and kind of they consistently keep winning awards and getting accolades for not just for the product usability, but equally for the ease of use, for the way that the direction of the business is going. Just to work with. Generally, it's nice and easy to work with. And they have been highlighted as a visionary cloud finance management solution as well. Kind of isn't stopping where it is now. There's a very extensive roadmap of where kind of Intacct is going as well. They also sit quite nicely at the top of Gartner's kind of list of core financial solutions for the mid-sized enterprise. So they consistently kind of end up at the top of that list, just for kind of usability, user experience, general solution as well. So let's have a look. Been talking a little bit about Intacct now, so let's take a look at a couple of the different areas. So these are kind of areas that stand out for Intacct, and this is what we're going to have a little bit of look at. So dashboards, multi-entity, dimensions, the collaborate tool, and some Outlier and AI approval. So I'm just going to pull up my Intacct environment here and share my screen. So here we are looking at Sage Intacct. So you can see straight away that I'm actually logged in through Google Chrome. So it is a true cloud native solution. There's no application to open, as I mentioned before. And I get straight into my dashboard. This is my homepage in my solution. It could be a customer list for others, an order list, wherever you need to be. But generally, we try and encourage people to be in these dashboards. So in my environment, I have different dashboards for different areas of the business. So somebody in accounts receivable, they would have their own dashboard that might show kind of customers' outstanding debt, age debt reports, things like that in here. I quite like the controller dashboard just because it's got some fancy bits in there that I can really show off Intacct. So in here, we've got some KPIs or some cards at the top that show us kind of where we're at from our current accounts payable and accounts receivable balance, how much cash we've got in the bank, cash balances. We've got some various ratio reports in here. But what I really like about this dashboard is that it really shows that multi-entity functionality that we've got in Intacct straight away, where we have this P&L that's giving me a consolidated P&L. So in my Intacct environment, I've got multi-entities, multi-legal entities. But because I'm currently operating in what we call our top level here at the top, that brings everything together into one place for reporting without having to run a consolidation routine. It's live consolidation. So if somebody posts something into one of my entities, that's immediately reflected in this dashboard. So we can see here that we've got our USA 1 company and our USA 2 company alongside our holding company here, and a summary of all of those locations together. And we can see a breakdown of P&L here straight away. These dashboards aren't just static. So whilst we can look at them, whilst we can click and drill in and run the full report, what we can also do then is actually break down these reports So we can split down into the accounts underneath these reports and see lower level numerical values. And we can drill into these values as well. So if we want to see what this revenue of expenses is made up of, we can simply click in and see the individual transactions that make up this actual posting. So whether they're invoices, whether they would be journals or not, and we can drill all the way through to actually get to the transactions themselves. So this is actually the invoice in this entity for that posting, or just clicking through without needing to go and remember the invoice number, without having to work through. These dashboards are really powerful. They save a lot of time going and trying to report on information. You can just use them, put them front and center, and then just drill into them. It makes a management use of the system much easier. They don't have to run 3 or 4 reports. They can just have those key reports on their dashboards and just drill into those dashboards. We can see we've got expense summaries here by department. That's one of our dimensions in Intacct. We can see that we can change this dashboard, so we can run it for different dates. We can run it for different entities. So we talk about multi-entity. At the top, we can see that this multi-entity is the top level, and then we've got 7 individual entities, which are all their own legal entities operating underneath this company. So with a traditional solution, we would have to change company. So we'd have to kind of log out or click change company, and that would close this data set and open the next data set. Whereas with Intacct, because we're in a browser-based solution, we simply need to click on that entity, and that actually opens in a separate web browser tab. So at the top, we could actually have all of our different entities open along the top if we want. Now, this dashboard is automatically filtered then by the entity that we're currently operating in. So we can see there that we've got USA1, all these figures are all relative to USA1. That consolidated P&L is now just for this entity, but it still works the same. So I can still drill into this report. I can still drill into the figures underneath the report. See budgets, for example, in this instance. This is going to run me a budget report for this particular account. I can also see that some of my data is now populated around approvals. So Sage Intacct has approvals built in as standard, where in other solutions you might need to go and buy a third-party solution, such as for Sage 100 WAP, for example, for requisition approval. Sage Intacct has this functionality built in, and it means that it's all contained in one system. So we get emails out for approvals, we can click in to log into the system from anywhere, and we can approve those transactions. But it also means that we can do some really clever AI as well in the solution then. So this is a journal approval. Yes, you can approve journals in Intacct as well. So with our journal approval, what this allows us to do is to use some really clever AI technology to try and eradicate errors when the transaction's first posted. So you'll see here that I've got a journal entry. It's a stock journal entry, and if we just press view, we can drill into this entry itself. You'll see at the top I've got a warning here that says unusual historical matches have been found, and to review the outlier. If we just go back into that screen that opened before, we'll see that there was an exclamation mark on this outlier column. So this is our AI that we've currently got built into Sage Intacct. A lot of businesses, a lot of solutions are offering AI, but they're all usually quite irrelevant, and it's really difficult to think of where machine learning could become relevant to a finance function. And Sage have done that with this outlier detection. What this does is, as transactions are posted, it monitors and reviews those transactions and checks the full transaction to see if there's problems potentially with values, with dates, with coding. If you have in this instance, it's a strange combination or a strange account to be posting to. I don't normally journal to these accounts. So what it's highlighted is that there's a potential problem with this posting before we've even approved it. That means we could fix the problem before it even posts to the ledger and goes through as approved, therefore meaning that we don't need to correct it in the future. And this system will keep learning. So from when you first turn it on, it will constantly be learning, which means it will pick up more and more potential issues as postings go on through the use of Sage Intacct. Again, just saving time, improving efficiency, and improving data accuracy as well in the system. Of course, we can correct if we do miss post, but the system is quite clever to try and tell us that there are problems there. Another thing that we can do with Sage Intacct, if we, for example, go into our invoice list, is use what we call our collaborate function. If we go into a purchase invoice, At the bottom, you'll see there's this area where we can kind of post, file, and link at the bottom, and we can type in to this record. So the whole idea behind the collaborate function is there's usually questions, queries around invoices or the transactional postings, and any transaction you can think of, really. And usually somebody will either take a screenshot, copy an invoice number, drop an email to somebody, asking them to clarify on a posting or get more information on a posting. And that's all happens outside the system. And there's very little visibility of that. Whereas with Sage Intacct Collaborate, by using this commenting or posting function on the transaction, we can actually tag different users in this. And hopefully it will pop up. There we go, Nikki. So we could tag Nikki in this transaction and ask her a question. So can you check the value is correct on this invoice? We can share that posting there. What that will do is that will send an email to Nikki, and also when she goes back in where this speech bubble is at the top, she'll get a little notification which tells her that there's been a comment on this particular transaction. Nikki can then go in, maybe correct that transaction, maybe go in and check the values, or maybe just add another comment. That's actually dropped me an email, as you'll see here. I'll just drag it across so you can see what these kind of things look like. So there we go. We can see that Emma mentioned Nikki in a comment, and we can click through straight into the transaction itself and make any comments, any corrections. So we still get that notification that we would get if we emailed somebody, but we don't have to be in the system all the time, and we don't have to reply by email. Nikki could just go in, comment on that, do whatever needs to be done, drop a file in maybe. If there's a copy of the invoice and it hasn't been attached, she could either attach it by going in and editing the transaction and dropping an attachment in, which is the standard functionality in Intacct, or put in another file that's not related into the collaborate or a comment in there as well. Users can also follow this stream as well. So if somebody's interested in a resolution to a query, they can follow that, and then they'll get updates as comments are posted as well in there. Now, as we go in and look at our transaction entry, and we'll just go in really quickly and post a new invoice, we can see this breakdown at the bottom here where we've got our accounts that's being posted to effectively our transaction detail. And this is where we can see all those dimensions that we can post to. So being multi-dimensional, Intacct allows us at any transactional point to tag multiple dimensions. So our account, of course, is a dimension, which we've got at the top here. So our utilities account. And of course, we've got departments in here. We've got our entities in here as well. So we can post from either the child entity as we are now, or if we're posting from a top level, we can actually choose which entity to tag at that point. So as a finance manager, I don't have to worry about going into 3 or 4 entities to make postings to check information. I can be working at that top level and be tagging the entities as I go through and enter transactions or check transactions. But for those users that are just in one entity, they can go in, they can tag all of these various dimensions. So we've got classes as standard departments, our customers are a dimension, our employees can even be a dimension in there, items, we've got contracts and things in here as well. We can also create custom dimensions. So portfolio is a dimension I created at one point for a demo. So that was around a group of buildings. So then we could report on that. The benefit of dimensions then is that on any of the reports that we run in Intacct, we can run based on those filtered dimensions. That means potentially if we're raising a purchase invoice that was related to a purchase specifically for one customer, whilst we might not want to back and link those together, we could still tag the customer and then run P&L reports by customer, for example, which could show us our revenue and expenditure for that individual customer. We could tag suppliers on the sales side and run reports by supplier. We could tag employees on our expenses journal so that we can then run reports based on what employee remunerations have been made or expense claims have been made, just from a nominal perspective. The whole load of capabilities through this dimensional reporting that's quite a new concept in the finance space, really, but absolutely streamlines, improves efficiency, and just changes the world of finance completely. By using something like Sage Intacct, visibility across finance is just there straight away. The other kind of areas as well that we've got in here is a really flexible financial reporting area. So there's a whole load of kind of core financial reports in the system that are easily created, easily changed, easily updated in a really nice manner. So a lot of other solutions have got a really non-flexible way of kind of creating P&L and balance sheet reports. Whereas with Sage Intacct, if I just go into my top level and open up my reports, so there's a whole load of out-of-the-box reports by department, by location, which is my entity. So again, not for any kind of consolidation routine, just by running my P&L by location, I get a live consolidated P&L report. If we go and have a look at the way this report's written, it's really nice and intuitive for users to be able to go in and update this. So we can see in our rows, we've got our P&L breakdown here. We can choose really easily whether we want to do summary or whether we want to go in and do details on various reports. We can see our columns in here. We're seeing actual column, then we're seeing a percentage of revenue. So we're seeing current month and prior month on a report on here. And it's really easy to just go in and change it and add columns and break this down in a really nice user interface. Once you've kind of got used to the system, it's much nicer than a lot of other solutions where you've got to use different numbers to do computations and things like that. It's just very graphical. And as we go through, we can go in and do live reporting as well. So we can go in and really quickly look and see how that change has made a difference on this report. And if we don't like it, we can then go back and update the information on here. So we might say, actually, we don't want the actual on here. We might want the budget on here instead. Because of the capabilities of Sage Intacct, we can actually choose to bring in different budgets. So there's not just one budget or two or a revised budget and an original budget in Sage Intacct. We can have as many budgets as we want, which means then from a financial reporting, we can bring those different budgets into essence as we reforecast through the year. So that's just a little overview of Sage Intacct core there. The other thing that I just want to kind of drill into and talk about a little bit is something that's quite exciting that we've been working on with Sage as well. So I'm just going to just share and go back to my slides again. Hopefully you can see this again now. So at Innov8, we've been working really closely with Sage and the Intacct team on their new cloud manufacturing offering. So Sage Intacct Manufacturing is a cloud manufacturing platform. It sits entirely in the web, just like Sage Intacct. It integrates with Sage Intacct, and it's kind of there targeted at discrete manufacturing. It's designed for businesses, whilst there is some inventory control and inventory management and sales orders in Intacct Core or Intacct Financials. This really breaks this out into bill of materials, works orders, much more detail, and means that you can have those manufacturing warehouse users in the Sage Intacct platform and those finance users in core Sage Intacct Financials. So it's designed to target discrete manufacturers. It's got full inventory control, works orders, bill of materials, MRP. Your sales and purchase orders are all handled in there as well. And Innov8 are working with Sage as a select team of just 4 business partners to help launch this into the UK and really give a whole load of feedback on this, because this platform has been built from scratch. It's been built with an experienced team that have worked on products like Sage X3, which is, of course, enterprise level manufacturing solution. And yet Innov8 have been working really closely with Sage. Sage have been getting our feedback from all their releases, and we're keen to push this and get some early adopters in the UK channel. So just move through. So the initial target market for Sage Intacct manufacturing is, of course, the UK, France and the US are on board as well, manufacturing businesses, which are focusing on discrete manufacturing and have kind of an established process, really. This will then, I just lost connection, which is not ideal.
You're back, Chris.
Am I perfect? I think my voice is on, but my I think my image might have stopped. There we go, perfect. So yeah, so we're kind of those established manufacturers. Eventually, this will then break out into that distribution sector as well. So those that aren't necessarily manufacturing, but want a more detailed sales and purchasing and back-to-back based business. But initially, we're kind of pushing into those manufacturing businesses in the UK that have got discrete manufacturing. So it's already been launched into the UK market with, like say, 4 partners, Innov8 being one of them, looking to get users that are on an early adopter program. So it's not an established manufacturing solution, but the idea is to work with early adopters, partners, and customers to really build the solution, scale the solution to deliver the needs of those businesses. So we've already got really detailed works orders, inventory control, purchase order and sales order control. You can see for the 2022 launch, it's multi-legislation. It is multilingual as well, being released in France and linked into a French solution as well. We've got distribution, inventory management in there. But then as we go into the end of this year and into early next year, that's then going to be scaled up. So we've got in this, ideas for mobile automation, handheld based functionality that's going to help AP automation in there. So bringing some of those ISV partners across into the solution as well, so that we can do AP automation, integrating for retail solutions. And then the whole target is by 2024, around that time, that the product will be quite established then and will be a lead product in the mid-segment manufacturing space with a cloud-based manufacturing solution.